particular aims of the pilgrimage were to unveil a monument to the action of the RAAF and No. 1 Squadron in particular at Kota, to visit the site of Hudson A1619, which was shot down off the coast of Kota, and to unveil a plaque on Sembawang station noting it as the RAAF base on Singapore Island at the time. So to introduce the group, here is Jack Hopwood.
I'm going to try to get these blokes to say good day as I go past and tell us who they are. So just stand by. Peter, you're right. Peter, right? Yeah. And where are you going, Peter? Don't tell me. Doug?
I'm Doug Adams, and I'm taking Peter with me.
That'll be a change, won't it?
Jim Porteous from Sydney.
G'day, Jim.
Eddie Henderson.
How do you spell that, Eddie?
George Morrison, Melbourne.
Say again?
George Morrison, Melbourne.
What do you say?
In charge of Hopwood and Hanger. Mick Green, Sydney.
Hello, Mick.
John Anderson.
G'day, John. You're last on this road. Here we go.
Duncan McDonald.
Where are you from, Duncan?
Eildon.
Not in the weir?
Yes, up in the water.
Oh, we'll just keep your feet dry, won't you?
Not possible.
Garth Andrews from the Gold Coast.
Hi, Garth. You come a long way.
Yeah,
Hi, Noel.
no,
I'll have to spend a moment on you for old Leslie's edification, won't we? Yeah, welcome.
Spurgeon from Canberra.
Canberra? That sounds familiar.
Jack Clark from Phillip Island.
Well done, Phillip. Island.
Me,
That'll do.
Mavis Graham. I'm the headmistress.
We want the address.
Well,
We want the address, Mavis.
just keep talking, Mavis. We might need you later on.
Oh, Victoria.
Of course.
Melbourne, Victoria.
With the Premier State South Australia, though.
Leave that bit out.
G'day, Mr. Haggard.
G'day, Jack. I was going to say I was looking after you and Morrison, but I see you got in first.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, do you think that'll work all right, Jack?
That'll do.
You're from Adelaide, aren't you?
No, I'm sorry, it's from...
We arrived at Kuala Lumpur for an overnight stay at the Concord Hotel and were very surprised at these illuminations.
Yes, well, no, you haven't been back here at all. You haven't been this way previously?
No.
Yes, I think you'll find that things... This is the noise and the sound and sight. We're just on the arrival at our hotel.
Having been officially welcomed at the Kota airport by the various dignitaries, we went to lunch at the Padana Hotel and then were taken to this staked banquet hall to view the magnificent inlays.
It's a beautiful building, and I think it was completed in 1987. The timber is all local stuff, as you might imagine, and it's really lovely. We'll say thank you, Mike.
Oh, this is movie, is it? Oh, well, we mustn't stand still. We must...
No, that's exactly right. Perhaps you should make a comment about what's in front of you. That old fellow's to your right, for argument's sake.
Have you taken a close-up of this coat?
I made them lift it into firewood in my car.
Good.
Beautiful, isn't it? Mike, is this a traditional design? Is it a traditional design?
It's based on the traditional design. We've never had in Kelantan a building quite as elaborate as this.
Beautiful.
But its shape is the traditional Kelantan design, yes.
Yeah, and what about the builders? Were they local or were they imported?
Obviously the local, yes.
Really? There we have the crest. Yes, great big plaque, coat of arms on the wall.
We then moved into the main meeting hall of the Legislative Council with its fine timbers and leathers and ornate candelabra, followed by the less ornate committee room, although still very fine. On the Wednesday afternoon, a trip out to the beach where it all began, stopping on the way to view silversmiths in operation. And then to a batik factory where we saw hand loom weaving using gold and silver thread.
Well, this is the PCB beach, or the beach of passionate love, so they tell us. But it's also the site of the estuary of the river, which is at the end of the river, which is alongside the strip at Katabaru. So we're at this stage of the game. We're at a place called Padana Resort, sorry, and it's the only one in Kelantan, but it's pretty upmarket, and there are a few Australians staying here, but it's the closest we can get to the old strip and the squadron quarters by bus. Now, if we get an opportunity to get going, perhaps later on we might do so, but at the present time, history sort of tells us that this is where the Japs landed and where most of the action occurred. They tell me that one of the pillboxes that was down there is still in existence, but when we were here in 1971 and went out there, I think there were 3 or 4 of them that were still there. So yeah, things have changed, there's no question about that. Yeah, an illustrious group.
Now for the principal event, the unveiling of the memorial plaque in the Princess Anne's Memorial Orchid Garden. The tall gentleman in the white shirt is Air Vice Marshal Alan Hagan, who has joined the party to represent the Australian government. The entrance of Her Royal Highness, the Raja Perempran, signalled the commencement of the speeches of welcome to her and the purpose of this service.
Australian War died in the Second World War in Kelantan. On behalf of the Kelantan State Museum Corporation, I would like to extend our warm welcome to our honored guests. Your welcome.
Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. Your Royal Highness, you do me a very great honour in inviting me to speak today at this dedication and the unveiling of this memorial.
Air Vice Marshal Hagan acknowledged the welcome and spoke of the plaque which had been donated by the Australian War Graves Commission. The granite cenotaph was graciously donated and erected by Jimmy Yong from his own quarry.
Berangkat menekan butang perasmian. Dipersilakan.
Her Royal Highness moves over to the pedestal to press the button to release the balloons and unveil the plaque on the cenotaph.
Lima 50 ekor burung merpang kedamaian sejagat. Juga sebagai tanda memperingati genapnya 50 tahun tamatnya Perang Dunia Kedua.
The wording of this plaque is as follows. The Government of the Commonwealth of Australia, in concert with the Government of the State of Kelantan, has established this memorial to commemorate the first commitment of Australian combat units against the forces of Imperial Japan at Kotaburu in the early hours of Monday the 8th of December 1941. In this opening battle of the war in the Asia-Pacific region, Lockheed Hudson aircraft and crews of the Royal Australian Air Force operated against the Japanese seaborne invasion force. In honouring all those who died during the engagement at Kotaburu on the 8th of December 1941, this memorial recognises in particular the following aircrew personnel of No. 1 Squadron RAAF. Flight Lieutenant John Graham Leighton-Jones, Flight Lieutenant John Christopher Ramshaw, Flying Officer Ronald Hewitt Siggins, Sergeant Geoffrey Cyril Coldry, Sergeant Graham John Hedges, Sergeant David Ward Walters, Sergeant Garrett Sidney White, all of whom paid the supreme sacrifice in defence of the Kotaburu airfield on that day.
Her Royal Highness Raja Perempuan Kelantan will lead the lost interns to the resting room.
Here she comes for a photograph with the boys. How about that? Now you must all smile and say g'day, Jack. Thank you very much indeed. Well said. Say again, what is it called?
Uncle Anis, that's her pet name.
And this is Her Royal Highness's particular interest, is it?
This is the Japanese contribution to her game.
Oh, I see. This particular section
This
here.
was given by the Japanese veterans. Yes.
Oh, right,
And the
okay.
monument. That started the exercise off. This was a swamp. And when we came...
Yeah, quite lovely gardens. It's 4 or 5 years ago. This was a swamp, according to Spud.
Well, it was a dry swamp. It's the old paddy drain that used to run
And
out of the rice fields.
the memorial.
The party was then taken to the Kelantan State Museum and also enjoyed a full afternoon tea there.
And
I think that you can all hear what I'm saying. George, come up here. How my camera? There's your toll.
yeah, speak up, Spud.
The gentleman sitting in the chair on my right is someone to whom I personally, and I think we all, owe a pretty large vote of thanks. This exercise this time is only the second time that Mike has contributed mightily to the success of the mission to Kelantan. And I might say that, I think I've told some of you before, that the idea I think originated back in about the middle of October last year, and I have no hesitation in saying that of course Mike responded in exactly the way that I'd expected him to. And I don't know what sort of influence Mike has, but whatever it is, whether it's subterranean or over the top, it seems to be able to produce results. And even though sometimes we get the timing a tiny wee bit fine, it always works out. And in that regard, I'd like to bring another friend of the Sembaway Association forward, because Jimmy Yong has contributed in a remarkable way to this whole exercise. I don't know whether you guys had a look at that lump of rock. But Jimmy put it there, and he didn't carry it himself, but Jimmy was responsible for putting it there. And as I say, the timing of this exercise was so tight that I think he was probably working day and night to finish it. But Jimmy, we Australians, we stupid old bastards who come back here all the time, are very, very grateful to you.
Yeah, I look forward to see you again.
Mike, I'm not going to say any more about you because I know damn well that any time we ring a bell and it's up in Kelantan, you'll answer it. And I'd like you to accept this little expression of our goodwill to you and our thanks, and in the hope that this association, maybe just one more time, we can develop something else.
Good.
It's always my pleasure, and I think the pleasure of anybody who's here now, to be able to come back to this beautiful place and all these beautiful people.
John, where the hell are we going? Where the hell are we going, mate? What are we doing?
Oh, yes, well, we're on our way to the approximate spot where John Ramshaw and I crashed the Hudson A1619. That was about 3 o'clock in the morning of December the 8th, 1941. And we just returned from a bombing run on a cruiser which was standing offshore behind the transports, a mile or so behind them, and we decided that we ought to have a go at this cruiser. We decided we'd have a go at this cruiser because it was a potential menace to the aerodrome. We completed our run and dropped our bombs from masthead height, and I think we'd been hit by something from the cruiser at that stage. We were able to return, and we went back between the shore and the transports, which were then very busily disgorging troops and equipment into lighters, which were shuttling between the ships and the shore. And it was there that John Ramshaw said that the aircraft was not behaving at all, and he couldn't control it. And I just had time to jettison the perspex frame above us, and I think that was one of the principal reasons why we were able to survive the crash. Both he and I were alive. I came conscious in the water sometime after the crash and called out and spoke to John Ramshaw, and he answered me, but he said that he didn't think that he would survive. And later on, about another 5 minutes later, after I'd sorted myself out a bit, I called again and I got no response. This would be roughly where John Ramshaw and I and Cyril Coldry and Gary White pitched into the drink.
Mau lepas tu, Pak. Email baca lah tu lah. Ni tu email baca ni.
Bagi review dulu.
Awak. Tapi dia kok. Thank you so much.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. The going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Lest we forget. This is in the centre of Kota and there's an extension, I suppose, of the ceremony which was carried out this morning. Well, don't all stay silent, just say hello and wave to me, or whatever, as we go. I can't get you all in one fell swoop, so I don't mind how much you talk to me. Okay. Boleh. Ah, yes, now.
Okay, thank you. I was only just now you know why I came.
Your room, isn't it? The whiskey's still there.
No, it's nearly all.
Jimmy Young,
Poor old George
man
sitting
extraordinary.
opposite me. He had too much.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sembawang, and we're a bit early, but we've been greeted by the station master and all the rest of it, all the hierarchy. So very quickly, I'll just swing around and try. Everybody's very, very busy taking photographs, and I guess that might be the only time we're allowed to take photographs. But anyway, we'll just see how we go. I can't believe this, that we are that we are around about the 75 and over, and I think the oldest one here is Eddie Henderson, who claims to he says he's 80, so you know. Yes, the fact that we're half an hour early doesn't seem to have
Please finish your cups of tea and whatever else you're doing. Colonel would like to start. He's got a presentation for us, and I think if you'd like to take your seats, it's strict order of seniority. Rage before duty.
Or rather, should I say, welcome back, Sembawang base.
Good on behalf of these commanding officers.
Base where we were in some 50 years ago, fighting a war in which others may be free. We are indeed moved by your association's intention to unveil a memorial plaque in honor of the brave men of the RAAF who have served and who have given their lives serving in this base during those tumultuous years. But necessary reminder to all of us here and also to the future generations of Sembawang Air Base personnel of the turbulent period of our history. It will be a link to the past which we down here have no experience at all. Now, having yourself and your venerable colleagues here today have not only deepened the understanding of our history, but have brought it alive. And as you have mentioned, the oldest member here is 80 years old, and it is certainly history that is being brought back to us in real life. And we really appreciate what we have done, and we are grateful for that.
Colonel Chief and officers of Sembawang Air Base, I think this is the second time I've been in this room. The first time was back in about 1942, and no, it wasn't, it was 1940, and it was Tim Bethke's birthday. How many of you remember Tim Bethke? Tim Bethke was an aged, very aged signaller we had with us, and it was Tim's 21st birthday. And I was dragged in here by the scruff of the neck, and I don't remember leaving. But that's the first time I was here. The second time, perhaps it's just as joyous. It's certainly celebratory, and we are very gratified, the group that's here now, to be your guests. I haven't got my old Sembawang entry pass. I've looked everywhere for it. I've got it somewhere. And I promise you, Colonel, when I find it, I'll send it to you. Those of you who have not been here before, the Colonel mentioned the Heritage Room. And when we were here before, it makes me anxious now to see how much it's changed since we were here before. I think it's a very, very fine repository for those of you who might have any memorabilia. Even if it was something you stole from somebody, it would be, I'm sure, a welcome addition to the display. However, I'm rambling on. For those officers here who perhaps are not aware of what these oldies are doing here, we came initially back to Malaysia as a group in 1991, and that was to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the start of the war. And as we have done this time, it started at Kota Bharu, because number 1 squadron, which initially was the first squadron to arrive at Sembawang in July of 1940, had been deployed to Kota Bharu. Each squadron, 8 squadron and 1 squadron, had had a deployment at Kota Bharu, but 1 squadron happened to be there when the Japanese decided it was a good place to initiate their arrival in Malaysia. In that engagement, I think about 9 Hudsons were serviceable and were committed to the first operation. As we well know, 2 were shot down. Regrettably, the crews were lost, except for 1, who is right here with us now. He was the only survivor in the loss of those 2 aeroplanes. I might add, the Japanese had more casualties to commemorate than we had. I think the figure was in the order of 700. I think that was a measure also of the success of the operation by 1 squadron, even though they only lasted about 24 hours. I was unfortunate enough to be associated in that exercise too. 8 Squadron was based at Quantum, and we all hurtled up there on the first morning without knowing. We had no orders at all, I might add. We were told to go to Kota Bharu and bomb Japanese. And I must confess, having just arrived in Quantum the night before, it came as a bit of a shock. Anyway, by dint of bad management, I managed to prang all over the airfield up there myself, and we all came out together by train. In fact, I think we were the last train over the Kuala Klai Bridge before they blew it up. Sembawang itself then became the centre for our activity, and gradually and slowly but surely aeroplanes were wrecked or lost or became unserviceable for various other reasons. Those people we left behind at Kota Bharu who stick in our memory. We're very pleased that the one survivor, Dr. Don Dowie, is with us today, and he looks pretty good to me. I nearly said he was the oldest in the room, but he isn't. The purpose, of course, in coming to Sembawang again is to show, or to give those people who have not been here before, the opportunity of renewing their acquaintance with the base.
And now to the Heritage Room.
I think one unique feature of this plaque is that you'll notice it is in English, different from the one in Karabaru, which was written in both Malay and English. The significance of that remark need go no further than this gathering here. But, it is our great pleasure, of course, to have Colonel choose this spot in which the park should be erected. This is their heritage room, as they call it. And I think that's a singularly apt title for a room that contains memories and memorabilia. I think that the only formal part of the service that I would like to suggest that we have, and I mentioned this when the initial proposal was made, that we'll have a simple recitation of the ode and the park will be unveiled. There will be no formal service other than that. I could call you all please to attention and we'll recite the oath. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. The going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. Unless we forget. The yellow one is the one with the bracket.
The wording of this plaque reads as follows. Royal Australian Air Force. Former members of Headquarters, numbers 1, 8, 21 and 453 squadrons, who served in the Far East 1940 to 42, in the war against Japan in Singapore, Malaya, Sumatra and Java. Proudly remember all those who paid the supreme sacrifice. A lasting tribute to our home base, Sembawang, erected by the Sembaway Association, formed from those who also served there.
So much comment, and this gives a pretty clear picture of the outline The nostalgic gayness of the old control tower, Sembawang, obviously, and much toing and froing, and we've got 453 squadrons being photographed here. 3 only by the look of it. And there's much chattering and carrying on round about, and I don't know whether they intend to take individual photos by squadron or whatever.
The Sembawang base history film contains some interesting footage of Buffaloes and Hudsons operating at Sembawang at that time.
But they are identical copies of the book that is down in the Heritage Room, and should you need any more, we have some numbers of them that are available. The next time they are in aid of the old people of the Sembawang Association.
Yeah, they won't cost you more than 1,000 each.
Well, I think the bags are better. These are a couple of commemorative, I suppose you call them, memorabilia labels that were prepared for the people who participated in this pilgrimage. And we'd like you to have these, and do with them as you will.
You can all wave to me, can't you?
And now to the farewells as the members leave on different flights for different home destinations.
See you in church if you're